Of the Parliament, which I'm not. I'm not voting, I have no power, just advocating.
I think I have a slightly different take on the OTF, to be fair. I do think that we've got slightly confused in the Parliament's discussions, because at the moment the OTF category is trying to do two things. It's trying to address the broker crossing networks that have set up in the equity space, which have developed post-MiFID and are obviously contributing to some of the dark trading that's taking place. And you know, that I think is part of the issues that Finance Watch have. But the other side of it is we also have the G20 commitment of moving derivatives trading onto more organised electronic venues. And the existing venues, it's very difficult to see how they can be made to be workable without degrading the actual regulatory framework they currently have. And so I wouldn't want to see those suffer in order to have the flexibility for derivatives trading. And indeed, if we want to move some of the fixed income trading over time to these organised venues, then I think this is a good way of achieving it, because it's a midpoint of moving the markets to a more sophisticated electronic format. There are, however, there are some issues. I mean, it all comes back to data and what we're working on. I mean, the OTC data is critical here. If it's 40%, you wouldn't want to maintain 40%, particularly in the dark, because you would suggest it probably has an impact on some price discovery, particularly on the equity space. But only the UK collected data on OTC trades pre-MiFID. So the only data we have is FSA data as to what it was pre-MiFID. And the FSA suggests that there has been no change in the quantity of trades done OTC before versus after. And so I'm a little concerned that we're confusing the picture by talking about the equity space and the OTF at the same time. And my suspicion is that the Parliament will actually suggest that OTFs are not appropriate for equities, and will try and make sure that the equities broker crossing networks will move either onto an MTF or through the SI model that currently exists. But I think there is a recognition growing amongst the shadow rapporteurs and the rapporteur himself that the OTF category is probably necessary in order to give the flexibility in the non-equity space for trading. And it would be preferable to not having it at all.
Just before Lord Hamilton pursues that, with the FSA going, domestically with the FSA going, who will, in the residual bodies, provide that kind of information that you say FSA is doing at the moment?
They will continue to do it in their new format as the Markets Authority. They will continue to collate the data. They have a very sophisticated system. What's the name of the computer system? They've just spent a very large number of millions on a new trade reporting system, which is one of the most sophisticated trade reporting systems there is. So they really do have data at their fingertips. But sadly, most of the other regulators across the EU do not. And so there's a question as to whether or not this technology may now actually be made available to other member states in order to have the same high quality of trade reporting taking place.
Thank you very much. Lord Hamilton.
Yes, you made reference to dark pools, and there's been an increase in dark pool trading, which is detrimental to fairness and price formation. And can I just add in on this? I read in some of the briefing we were given that the US and Canada and Australia have great concerns about dark pools as well. And can I just ask a question that isn't down here? How important is international cooperation on all this? I mean, do we need to be in step with the US authorities and so forth on this, or does it matter if we are out of step? Or, you know, I just can't get a handle on, we are talking about a global marketplace, and how important is it that we're all doing the same thing at the same time?
I think we're talking about global marketplace clearly from the perspective of who's acting. I mean, actors are clearly global and acting in different financial markets. But the reality is financial markets, they're still national. There's the UK equity market, the US equity market, Canadian, Italian, French, you name it. So effectively, you know, your dark pool is going to be concentrated or specialized in a certain market, in which case what really counts is the regulation in that part of the world that is going to address that issue. So yes, we have a global industry and a global market, but the reality of financial regulation for specific markets, in my view, remains to a large extent national. I don't know.
Example of something that is traded in a dark pool, and I get a better handle on what it's about.
Well, it can be, shares, very simply shares. Dark pools in European markets represent about, there's always debate about statistics, but 6% of trading volumes. And a typical dark pool transaction would be, and I've had many discussions with large institutional investors about that, an institutional investor, an investor who wants to sell a very large block of shares doesn't want to have market impact, so therefore will put it on a dark pool. Presented like that, by the way, dark pool can have a meaningful purpose. It's in a way it's just what we were saying earlier on. When you have large in size, if not very large in size, you don't want to show your interest to the market because otherwise you move the market, it goes against you. The vicious circle where we have entered in European markets and even more in the US market now is that because of high frequency trading, there's a crowding out effect for large institutional investors that want to hide away from high frequency trader and therefore will have a tendency to go on dark pools or the OTC market because they're tied, to put it mildly, to be front run by high frequency traders, because they know that the minute they put an order in the market, there will be a detection of the order, someone will get in front of them, and the quality of the execution will be worsened because of that happening. And therefore, they want to hide from the market, and they will have a natural tendency to go to dark pools or to the OTC market.
So I've traded 50 million shares in Shell through a dark pool. Do I then go in for post-trade transparency? Do people know about it after it's happened? They just don't know beforehand.
Okay, now, colleagues, we are only 30 minutes left. Let's go